Hi guys, this is gsnmom.com and I'm here with a handset called Karbonn Titanium S6. Karbonn is a company from India that makes interesting handsets. This mobile comes after the Karbonn Sparkle V that we already reviewed. That one was an Android One phone. This is simply a KitKat handset that has some interesting UI modifications. I should mention that this handset costs in India $173, so it's an affordable phone. A dual SIM phone, that's a bit of a Galaxy S4 lookalike. If you look at it closely, you'll see Galaxy S4 resemblances on the front and back. So $173 coming from India, Karbonn Titanium S6. As far as the design goes, it measures 7.6 mm in thickness, it weighs 104 grams, and it's a bit longer than the Galaxy S4 and also just slightly wider. It also a bit rounded, as you can see here in the corners. And checking out its profile, you can see it's rounding at the top and rounded at the bottom. It's also a bit slippery because of its polycarbonate case that has a very interesting line finishing at the back. I should say that the phone feels pretty solid in the user's hand and it gives you an okay experience with one hand, so you can basically reach all the areas of the screen, pull the drop down area, press the capacitive buttons and everything is okay. So pretty good one-hand use. I have to say that the bezel of the screen is bigger than on the Galaxy S4. I'm making all this comparison just because the two models are so alike that people may confuse them, especially if you look at their backs. Of course, it's written Karbonn here, so it's hard to confuse the handsets. There's a protective layer already applied to the phone that defends its screen from scratches, and the camera at the back is a bit protruding outside the case. It's a small bump right here. As far as the front is concerned, we got an earpiece right here, we got the front camera, we got the sensors here, and we got 3 capacitive buttons below the display. Now we move on at the back, where there's the main camera with an LED flash below it. We got the speaker here, and once you remove the back cover, that's made of plastic. By the way, this is done pretty easily. We got the 2 SIM card slots here, and also there's the micro SD card slot in the same area. Of course, we also have the battery here, and now we go further. We put this back. At the top of the device we find the audio jack and the micro USB port, while at the bottom we find the microphone here, and let's try to really snap on the case. Now on the left side we got the on-off button here, and one on the right side we got the volume button. All of these buttons are a bit too thin and a bit slippery, so their feedback is not exactly top notch. The phone comes in black or white, and I would have to say that the design is okay for the price, but it certainly doesn't win any awards for beauty. Now as far as the hardware is concerned, we're getting here an IPS LCD screen, a 5-incher with a resolution of 540 over 960 pixels. The CPU is a quad-core unit, it's a MediaTek NT6582 clocked at 1.3 GHz. The GPU is a Mali 400MP and storage is 4 GB, of which 2 GB are free to use by the user. We get 1 GB of RAM, and there's also a micro SD card slot on board with support for up to 32 GB. We have a 2 megapixel front camera for selfies and an 8 megapixel back shooter with the LED flash below it. On the connectivity side, there's Wi-Fi, there's FM radio, HSDPA, we got Bluetooth 4.0, and we've also got GPS on board of the phone. In the section we like to call others, there's an accelerometer and a proximity sensor. Now as far as the battery is concerned, we have a lithium-ion 2000 mAh unit. On paper it provides you with 250 hours of standby or 300 minutes of talk time. In our test, let's see how we did. So our test involves looping an HD video with Wi-Fi on and brightness of 50%, and as you can see we achieved 5 hours of continuous video playback with Wi-Fi on and brightness of 50%, which is okay for the price, especially considering that, for example, the Nexus 5 achieves a similar playback time. The charging takes 2 hours and a half, which is pretty decent, and sadly we don't have any power saving options, which may be considered a bit of a minus for this phone. So as you can see, nothing here, no special options regarding to power saving. Okay, and I will also have to mention that when you're using the charger, the port tends to stick out a bit, so when you insert a charger here, it will stand out a bit too much from the phone, which is aesthetically not so pleasing. As far as the acoustics are concerned, we have the same speaker shape like on the Galaxy S devices, and we also have two music players. We got Google Play Music, and we also have this music player, pretty much the stock one, the older one. Now let's listen to some tunes and draw some conclusions. And now the conclusions. I have to say that the volume feels pretty much okay, the sound is clear, the bass is so-so, and all the notes are heard pretty much okay. There's no muffling on a flat surface. So you only lose about 1 or 2 decibels, so there's no muffling. We also have an equalizer available, obviously, which is the stock equalizer with genre presets, 5 custom channels, bass boost, some reverb options, and that's that. As far as the headphones are concerned, believe it or not, they're an imitation of the headphones that come with the Galaxy S handsets. Since the phone resembles the Galaxy S4, the headphones resemble the headphones of the Galaxy S4, S5, and the latest handsets from Samsung. They only resemble the design, and only the earbuds resemble that. The remote is pretty ugly, pretty big, and it has a singular button. And now we insert the headphones here. As far as the actual experience is concerned, so first of all I have to say that they're comfy. They have a flat wire so they won't get all mixed up. Sadly, the sound is very muffled, we got no bass and we got a lot of static in the background, so I was disappointed by the acoustic experience here. There's FM radio available on this device. So here we go, it's the stock app, don't expect anything fancy. We got search, speaker, and you can record FM, all the usual options for radio. Okay, now let's remove the headphones. Once again, the headphones are a bit of a letdown. They may look good, they may look like Samsung material, but they're not. Now, as far as the decibels are concerned, we use the decibel meter to test the actual strength of the speakers, and here's what came out. This is the decibel meter at the back of the phone, 86 decibels, and at the front of the phone, 84.5 decibels. This is actually a pretty good volume. For example, the iPhone 6 Plus achieves 83 decibels, and we're beating it. The Xperia Z3, sort of a music phone, among others, achieves 84 decibels, and we also beat that, so we're doing just fine. Overall, the speaker is okay, but the headphones are pretty poor and a bit of a letdown. However, many people have extra headphones at home, so they might compensate. In the audio profile section, there is BES audio enhancer for the earphones to enhance your experience and maybe get a bit more out of those headphones. As far as the screen goes, this one is a 5-inch IPS LCD display, resolution of 540 over 960 pixels. It's bright and crisp, and now let's play our usual test video. This is it. As I said, bright, crisp, a bit of oversaturation, but not a lot. The standard video player is basically the gallery. I would have to say that the screen is pretty bright, wide viewing angles, as wide as an IPS can offer. The contrast is not that good, and we got RGB striped pixels. We also tested the brightness and the pixels, obviously. And those are the pixels under the microscope. You can see here, because the image is blurry, it's the cause of the fact that we have that screen protection applied. Anyway, RGB striped pixels. And this is the lux meter that's showing us a value of 409 lux units, which is pretty bright, and it was measured on a white background. Just for the sake of comparison, the Sony Xperia Z3 achieves 400 lux, and the Sony Xperia Z2 366 lux. We're slightly below a similarly priced phone, Wiko Rainbow, that achieves 424 lux. Overall, a bright screen, and I have to say I don't have any objections aside from the oversaturation and slightly poor contrast. If you go into the display area in the settings, you'll see that sadly there are no special options. We got usual brightness, timeout, daydream, font size and cast screen, so no custom options. Overall, good screen, good brightness, wide viewing angles, but slightly oversaturated. Now, as far as the camera goes, we got an 8 megapixel shooter here with a single LED flash and the ability to take pictures with a resolution of 3264 over 2448 pixels. Now let's check out the UI of the camera. I'm going to use this castle right here, and just so you know, in spite of the custom icon, the camera is actually the Google camera application. And here we go, we're focusing on the castle and we're checking out the options. On the left side we got the usual lens blur, camera and video, and then on the right side we got the settings that involve the resolution and quality. You can take 8 megapixel shots in 4:3, 6.2 megapixel shots in 16:9, so if you want to change the aspect ratio. We can also tweak the front camera resolution, and surprise surprise, a negative surprise, you can only film in 480p. There's no HD, there's no full HD, just 480p capture for both the front and back camera unless you switch to an even lower resolution. Lens blur has two options, image quality, normal or low. We proceed further to the save location option and advanced that holds the manual exposure as usual. Very few options for this camera, and on the right side if you don't swipe you can access some of the capture options. We got a front camera shortcut, flash options, HDR, grid lines, the timer that offers 3 seconds, 10 seconds or none, and also the manual exposure if you selected that option. So that's all you got right here, very few options, and I have to say that the capture is pretty slow. So it takes a while to actually capture the shot, while the focus speed is, I would call it so-so, not very fast, not very slow. If you consider the price of the device, I would call it so-so, and let's leave it at that. Now let's actually analyze the shot we've just taken. It's pretty bright, there's actually a slight yellowish hue on top of it, or better said whitish hue. You'll see a lot of that in the pictures we've taken outside, but the level of details is quite decent for an 8 megapixel shooter. We're done with the castle, and it's time to go into the gallery and see how we did during daylight, during winter, with this 8 megapixel shooter. I have to say that from the start, this is a cold and cloudy day, and the pictures have a whitish hue going on here. Of course, you'll see more of this in the full text review. The colors are cold, the images are pretty clear, the level of detail is decent, but not more than that. We got some good macros of a tiger. And we also played a bit with the lens blur option, as I'll show you in a minute. So if you go to camera and you select lens blur and then you swipe around to get to the photo you want, you can play with the lens blur as usual. This is it, this is the lens blur shot. It's very simple. You select the subject you want to focus on and you select the level of blur. If you select the background, you blur the foreground. If you select the foreground, you blur the background. And that's what lens blur is all about, and it works like a charm in this case. Now we go back to the gallery and we continue the analysis of the shots we've taken using this snapper. As I said, the colors are cold, macros look pretty good, there is a whitish hue on top of pictures. The HDR is actually pretty good. Instead of whitening up everything, it highlights the details and it darkens stuff when there is the need to. This is where it whitens the area in a good way. Some more shots. It was a very cold and cloudy day, keep that in mind. And this 8 megapixel camera has a tendency to behave like a 5 megapixel camera sometimes. I should highlight that we get good macros out of it, good lens blur, and I should also highlight the lack of a panorama feature, which is kind of strange. There's also an interesting aspect here. The vivid colors you see here are actually very washed out if you look at the pictures on your PC, so that's strange. Once again, good HDR, good macros. We have clear pics, especially those that are better lit. There are okay details and a decent exposure and white balance. and that's the full gallery of the shots we've taken. If you have a good light and if you have patience to focus properly, the photos should be Facebook worthy, but not more than that. I don't have any blurry shots and no focus problem, so those are two positive aspects. The strangest things are the lack of a panorama and the very few camera options. And now as far as the videos are concerned, those are a bit of a bummer. You can only take 480p 3GP files. Our resolution is 640 over 480. We got videos with 30 frames per second, frame rate and a bit rate that's very low, 6 mega per second bit rate. This is an example, 3GP file, quality is pretty weak. Surprisingly, acoustics are okay, although a bit echoey. The level of detail is not very good. There is that whitish hue again, and here is another video. There is no focus problem, at least there is that. And also pretty good setup for balance and exposure, and now some ducks. Weak stabilization is also here. And we got a so-so white balance and exposure. I have to remind you, you can only film in 480p, there is no HD, there is no Full HD, both big disappointments for an 8 megapixel camera. So overall we have a mediocre photo taking camera and a very poor video capturing camera. I will have to call the lack of HD or Full HD video capture inexplicable, or maybe blame it on some bug. I'm very curious if another camera app is able to trigger that feature. Would be nice to taste it someday. Anyway, the lack of panorama is also a bummer. So overall, mediocre camera and poor video capture. You can also do a bit of photo editing if you really want to. So you pick the picture like this, press this button here, you see a collection of filters, frames, options to crop, straighten, rotate, mirror or draw, and then the usual auto color, exposure, vibrancy, hue, edges, posterize and all that. We're done with the camera, it's time to analyze the performance and software. As far as the temperature goes, we got a bit of a bad news here. So we reached a temperature of 43.5 degrees Celsius after playing a game with 3D graphics, Riptide GP2. 15 minutes of playing the game, it got the phone all heated up and overheated even at 43.5 degrees Celsius. As far as the web browser is concerned, you can pick the stock one or you can pick Chrome, that has a bit better results with the speed. We got a stock virtual keyboard that works pretty fine, and now let's load up gsm.com. I would call the speed of the stock browser okay. Pinch to zoom works, so nothing wrong with the web browser. This is a dual SIM phone with a pretty strange SIM placement. They're kind of overlapping each other and one is perpendicular to the other. Anyway, we have a cute dialer, we have a speed dial option right here, and aside from that we have OK volume in calls and OK signal. However, the background noise can be heard, so there's no noise cancelling, just in case you're wondering. No noise cancelling on the phone. Now as far as the benchmarks go, we also did that, and I decided to compare this model to the Wiko Rainbow, a similarly priced handset from France, and the AllView V1 Viper E, a handset that comes from Eastern Europe. So we've got here 3 phones, all of them with a MediaTek NT6582 processor and 1GB of RAM. This one has a 540 over 960 resolution, the Wiko phone has a 720p resolution, both of them have 5-inch screens, and the AllView V1 Viper E has a smaller screen and a bit of a smaller resolution. But once again, all of them have the same CPU and 1GB of RAM. In Quadrant, we scored a pretty good 8,805 points. We beat the Wiko Rainbow that scored 5,760. We also beat the AllView V1 Viper E that scored 7279 points. In Antutu, we scored 19,418, while the Wiko Rainbow scored 18,828. And the AllView V1 Viper E scored 18,490. Next up, Nenamark, very good score, 60.4 frames per second, Wiko Rainbow 52.8, and AllView V1 Viper E 55.1 frames per second. In Velamo we got 1755 in Chrome and less in the web browser, that's the stock one, Wiko Rainbow 2236 and AllView V1 Viper E 1766. Next up is 3D Mark, where we scored a very low 21.22, while the Wiko Rainbow has 29.49 and the AllView V1 Viper E 32.40. Geekbench 3 brought on a score of 353 and 1186, very similar scores here. The Wiko Rainbow had 351 and 1159, the V1 Viper E 352 and 1187. Finally, GFX brought us 4.2 frames per second, which is kind of weak, and the exact same score was replicated on the Wiko Rainbow and the AllView handsets, all of them with exactly the same score in GFX bench. Speed test, 20 MB per second download, 19 in upload via Wi-Fi, while the Wiko Rainbow has 23 and 19 and the V1 Viper E from AllView 20 and 22, so they're actually doing a bit better than us. They're also doing slightly better in browser mark. We got 974 here. We beat the Wiko Rainbow that had 573, got beaten narrowly by the AllView V1 Viper E with its 1008 points. Finally, SunSpider, the lower the better. We got 1608 here, which is quite a lot. The Wiko Rainbow had 1376 and the V1 Viper E 1352. Overall, this model that I'm holding in my hand here, the Karbonn Titanium S6, is able to win about half of the benchmark battles, and it's able to run the game Riptide GP2 with its 3D graphics in a pretty okay way. However, the interface feels a bit laggy at times. Of course, you have to open more apps to feel that, but trust me, after using it for a couple of days, I have to say that it feels slightly laggy, and that may become a bit annoying in the long run. So let's run Riptide GP2, since I praised the way this 3D game runs on this handset. Takes a while to load, but the 3D graphics are worth it. The race loaded instantly, graphics looking hot, controls respond well. Okay, we also got that nice water drop effect. The graphics were pretty cool, and that was the gaming experience on this device, with a pinch of 3D graphics thrown in for good measure. As far as the operating system is concerned, you probably know that this is a KitKat phone, and it's running Android 4.4.2, that's the version, with a slightly customized experience. You can see we got a bunch of customized icon here. It's a minimal and colorful customization. As you can see, the camera icon has been switched out for a green one, in spite of being Google Camera. You can also trigger the widgets, and you'll see half of them being pretty much the stock ones, and the other half being associated to special features, like for example gesture control and all that. Okay, let's see what else we got here. You can double press the home button in order to do the multitasking. You can also keep it pressed to trigger Google Now, like I just did. It will keep you up to date with the weather, your football teams, and your path to work. And you can use the drop down area to check out the weather or some cards from Google Now, as well as notification, and then a quick settings area with all the usual options, and then the full settings area where nothing fancy is to be found. We got the standard options, maybe aside from one called Home that allows you to change the launcher if you want to. Now we've reached that part of the review where we have a look at the pre-installed apps list, and I have to say that the phone is filled with bloatware in spite of not having enough storage to support it. We got the alarm clock application, we got browser, calculator, calendar, the camera app, we got Chrome, we got the Castle Dawn lock screen, we got the clock, downloads, Google Drive, Dropbox, email, Facebook, file manager, that looks like this. We got the gallery and FM radio, there's the Gmail, there's a game called Gold Miner, Google+, Hangouts, HoloTorch, that's obviously used as a torch for your device. And next up we got Maps, that also has a changed icon in spite of just being the simple Google Maps. Okay, we proceed further. We got messaging, we got movie studio in case you want to be a little bit of a video editor. We got music, we got news and weather, also with a custom icon and also with its new features, so it's been updated. Okay, then we got Office Suite, Opera Mini. We also have Photos, Play Music, Play Store, Quick Office, Real Football 2015, there's Settings, Sound Recorder. We got Spider-Man and the Avengers plus a to-do app that offers you a to-do list. That's very quick to edit and create. Then we have videos, voice search, weather, looking pretty decent. And then we got pre-installed WhatsApp, YouTube, and the list is completed here. Once again, a huge list, a lot of bloatware. I have to mention that a bit. And finally, I want to show you something. There's an interesting widget here, it's called Gesture. It's disabled now and enabled now. As the name says, it's based on gesture, so here we go. If you double tap the screen while the device is in standby, it should theoretically take me straight to Google Now, and if I do something like this, it should take me to the web browser. With a bit of lag that happens, so let's wait around this time. Took me straight to the browser, and let's try again with the double tap, slowly and gently. Google Now. So that's what the gesture widget is all about. It's time for the verdict and time to see what grade this phone gets at gsmdome.com. On the Pro side, we have an OK battery for the price. It's not very far from the performance of the battery on the Nexus 5. We got an OK volume from the speaker. We have a pretty bright screen. It beats 400 lux units. We have OK pictures, let's say that, OK pictures towards mediocre from the back camera. We have pretty good performance. You can run 3D games and the benchmarks look solid. And we have a solid design, feels like it can take a minor bump. Finally, it's a Galaxy S4 lookalike, which may satisfy some people who liked that design. On the con side, the negative aspects, the phone is a bit slippery, there is no power saving features, it comes with a poor pair of headphones, it does very poor video capture, only 480p for some reason, it has very few camera options, it overheats past 43 degrees Celsius, there is a slight lag in the user interface, there is bloatware, and there's a little storage to use once you buy the phone. And now the final grades. I'm going to give this Karbonn handset, Karbonn Titanium S6, an 8 out of 10 for design, an 8.2 out of 10 for hardware, and an 8.4 out of 10 for operating system and user interface. The final grade being 8.2 out of 10. The reason we dropped some points here is for the overheating, the not so good camera, the bloatware, the little storage. However, the price is good, it's below $200. It's a young people phone if you want an imitation of the Galaxy S4, if you want a phone good enough for Facebook pictures and to play some 3D games, that's the phone for you. Maybe change the launcher if you don't like the icons. Anyway, 8.2 out of 10 from gsmdome.com. Bye bye.